So, welcome to Timeout with Kevin. This is Coach Landrum, Hall of Fame coach. He coached my mom in high school and countless others. So, first question, Coach Landrum, I ask everybody. So, who is the hardest team you've had to coach against?
Okay, when I was coaching girls at Duncan, Ardmore was by far the hardest team that we had to play. When I coached boys at Lawton High School, Norman High School was tough. There was the old Boomer Conference, and Norman High School was the only school in Norman. Of course, they now have Norman North and maybe even another one. I'm not sure, but yeah, those two schools, Norman and Ardmore girls and Norman High School boys.
Yeah. And so can you tell me kind of how, like, can you explain to everybody kind of how you grew up, and especially coming from Rush Springs and stuff?
Okay. Yeah, Rush Springs, of course, is a small southern Oklahoma town, about 12 or 1,300 people. And when I grew up in the late 50s and early 60s, all we had to do was play ball. And all day long, in the summer, it was some form of ball. And I know my backyard didn't have any grass all the time, and we didn't have the luxury of playing inside like a lot of kids today do, But, yeah, that was our life, and there wasn't much else to do, really.
Right. And so can you tell me about, like, your first coaching job and kind of how that all came about?
Okay, yeah, I started out in a small, in fact, we had 52 kids in high school in western Kansas, a little place called Ensign, and spent 3 years out there, and had some great kids to work with, hard working, mostly German descent kids, and you talk about good attitude, they were worked with. But yeah, I started out in western Kansas and came back and went to Frederick, spent 11 years over in Lawton, and was the boys coach at Lawton High School for several years. I forget how many now. Town. That's when I started coaching girls. And I coached 11 years in Rush Springs. Got to coach my daughter, and won the state championship there at Rush Springs, and then went up to Yukon for a year and coached boys. And that wasn't a good move. We stayed there 1 year, and Burl White, he was my in high school football at Rush Springs and the athletic director. And he called me one day. There was a job about it. So I retired from Duncan and coached 3 or 4 years. So I think 40-some years altogether of coaching.
Okay, dang, 40 years.
Yeah, a lot of time.
Yeah, that is a lot of time.
I saw a lot of hoops.
Yeah, seriously. So, and can you tell me about your first state championship team that y'all had at Rush Springs?
It was actually, we played 6-on-6 then, and I had it was really a fun time because we actually got beat. We were like 26-4 going into the playoffs, and got beat in the regional. So what we had to do, I'll never forget, we got beat over at Cameron in the regional tournament. And I'll never forget this, but we were all just, our girls were just crying and boo-hooing because got beat so early like that. But thank goodness that was the double elimination.
Right.
And one little girl sitting over in the corner, I'll never forget her. Her name was Sharon. She was crying. She said, "Coach, what do we got to do to win the state tournament?" And I said, "Well, Sharon, we got to win 8 in a row now." And you know what? We won 8 in a row.
Oh,
and it was a fun ride. And, yeah, I mean, it was incredible. We were always, the underdog going into every game. In fact, the first game we played in the state playoff, we played undefeated. They were 30-0 team, and we beat them 6 points. And then turned around and won the next game, the semifinals, by 1 point. And then the finals, we won by 1 point. And they had the leading scorer in the state, Shelley Blessing, who played at Oklahoma State and was all Big 8 at the time. And we beat them by 1 point and won the gold. It was a great ride and so much fun as being an underdog.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
That was great.
Man, that's crazy.
And, of course, we got to the state finals at Duncan in 93 or 94 and got beat out by Tulsa Hale, I believe it was. And I think we would have won it all then. However, my best player, my leading scorer, hurt her knee against Bixby the night before. And she couldn't go.
Mm-hmm.
And they won the state in hurt that at 8 Duncan, but it was just expected, to go to the state tournament.
Okay, let me see. Okay, so can you tell me a little bit about like the 90s, like the team, like my mom's senior year, I had, y'all had her, Trisha Payne, Allie Griffin, and girls like that. Can you talk a little bit about their team from back then?
Oh, I tell you what, they were a really good team. State finals. In fact, it probably was better. But there was a better team there, and we got beat by Claremore in the state semifinals. And they were a very good team. Had a couple of D1 players on that team, and of course we did too. Trisha was a D1er, and she played at TCU, and of course Allie was a college player, and your mom was a college player, and that was a great team. I felt like it was probably the best team that maybe I ever had.
Right, because people still say that now. People say like that 97 team probably was like the best team they probably ever had coming out of Duncan. So I don't know. I'll just figure out hear from you. You first. You actually
right.
It,
Yeah. Well, overall, and we had so much depth on that team. There were girls on the bench who could come off, and we didn't miss a beat. It was just an awesome team with a lot of depth and a lot of good attitudes.
Right.
And actually, that was a really hard team to coach because, and you may get in this situation someday when you coach, because when you have so much depth and so many good players, it's hard to really, only 5 can play at a time.
Right,
and it's really difficult. And I kind of played about 8 players as a rule. I didn't play, I didn't throw 5 kids out there on the floor all at one time, and just substitute like that. I played about 8 players. That was our rotation. And so consequently, You know, there were some kids on the bench over there that could have started for a lot of people.
Right. Right.
But that's hard when you've got quality players who have to sit on the bench. You know what I mean? It's just a tough thing. But only 5 can play. I always tell the kids at the first of the season, and I explain to them, I make it really clear. I say, now, guys, you got to understand, this isn't a band. Not everybody gets to march. We only got 5 at a time that can play, and it's not like the band. So you need to understand that right off the jump go.
Right. Seriously. So another question.
Yeah, everybody gets to march in the band.
Right. Another question I was going to ask is, how do you – so you still – I know you're still a fan of basketball and you still watch. So how do you think girls basketball is now, like today?
I think it's come a long way. I think high school basketball, I think college ball has come a long way. You know, the girls can get up and down the court pretty good. And I really think this might be offensive to you as a man playing basketball, but I think women's basketball is probably purer than I think that fundamentals are more important in girls basketball.
I agree.
Because of the pace of guys, you know, and the 3-point line, I think it's just changed the game so much because, you know, I relied on a post player. Sharika had to touch the ball every time. Okay. That was a rule for us. When we go down the court, it goes inside before we put it up outside. Right. I mean, that was kind of our philosophy in basketball. But now, what I'll ask you this question. Post players are used for rebounding and setting screens, basically. They don't really rely on them for scoring anymore. It's all about setting picks and getting a rebound. That's what it looks like to me. You know, college coaches, they don't go for they used to recruit the big man was their number one priority. And now it's those guys that can shoot the three that are about 6'3" or 6'4". You don't have to be 7 foot anymore like days past.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I think it, you know, I love the inside game. I just think that, you know, it's higher percentage. And I don't know. I think the game, I don't know. I'd have a hard time coaching the game. They wouldn't want to play for me.
I was about to ask. That was my next question.
Shot.
That was my next question was, do you think you could coach like right now? You know what I mean? With how you coached back then. I was going to ask. I was just about to ask you that. Yep. So, okay.
I think so. I think you could be just as successful, I think, coaching old style. But now you might have trouble connecting with the kids because all the kids want to do is shoot the three.
Right. Do you think the post players will come back eventually, or do you think we'll just always kind of go back to shooting threes now and stuff? You think?
I think it'll come back around. I think it's just a matter of time, but I don't know. Probably what's caused a lot of that, Kevin, is the shot clock. You know, when you have a shot clock, you know, we had to work to get the ball inside.
Right.
I mean, that was a real talent, because I always rewarded those kids who could enter the ball to a post player, because it's not easy. I mean, against good D's, you know, people get in your face and make you turn your back on those post players. So it's a tough thing to get the ball inside. So time elapses, you know, and the clock runs out and you don't get your shot off, and you hear the 30-second buzzer go off, or 24-second, or what the clock is for women's or men's basketball.
Mm-hmm.
But I still think there's a place in the game for a post player.
Mm-hmm. It's just hard now because, like the new trend is like positionless basketball. You know what I mean? Everybody can play 1 through 5 now. You know what I mean? And they've kind of taken all that away, like
Right.
you said, so it's crazy. Even like last year at school, like it was guys like 6'7", 6'8", and we were out there. Everybody was out there shooting threes and stuff. But in high school, they'd have been primarily just down in the post. You know what I'm saying? So it's a lot different. It's a lot different. So
Yeah.
talk to me a little bit about when West Springs honored you and they put your name on the court. So can you talk to me a little bit about that?
I didn't hear that, Kevin.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Breaking up. I got you.
Okay, so I said, can you tell me a little bit about when Rush Springs honored you and put your name on the court? And can you tell me a little bit about how you felt in that situation?
That was the biggest thrill of my life, I guess, other than winning the state tournament. That was a real honor because simply that was my hometown. Okay, I grew up there, and to bring back, that was the only state championship in girls basketball in basketball that they've ever won at Rush Springs. So having said that, that was just a super big honor, personal honor, to go back to my hometown and have that kind of success. Right. And believe it or not, I'm in the Oklahoma Coaches Hall of Fame, the Girl Coaches Hall of Fame, the Duncan Coaches Hall of Fame, but that honor of having my name put on the court tops it all. That was super.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, that there was nothing like that.
Right.
And you have.
And so, and okay, so I'm happy you brought up the Hall of Fame. So can you tell me a little bit about the Hall of Fame and how that kind of like that process was?
Well, I guess your peers nominate you, which that makes it, great. And I know I could always talk to a team at practice or halftime, but having to get up and give a speech at the Hall of Fame induction was probably the most nervous moment I've ever had in my life.
Oh, wow.
That was just totally not me.
Yeah, right.
It's easy to talk to your team, but when you have to talk to several hundred people about being inducted, well, yeah, that's a different dude.
Yeah,
altogether.
Seriously.
But it was a great honor. Great honor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man, that's big. That's the highest you can get. So and you've done that. So, all right. So here's the bonus.
But really, that name on the court was.
You said what?
I said, really, having my name on the court was a bigger honor to me personally.
Gotcha.
Because it was home.
Right. Yeah, I understand. So here's the bonus. I have 2 bonus questions for you. So I do them with everybody. So the first bonus question I have is, what do you think about sports coming back with all the Corona stuff and everything happening?
I don't know if it's going to be without spectators. And I really look for that to be an issue to begin with. I think that there's people are going to stay away from games, and it's going to be, that's half of the game. I think is for the kids to be playing in front of other people.
Right.
And
right.
That's just, I don't know if that's going to happen.
Right. Yeah,
I hope it does.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't either. I don't either. It's crazy. It's a crazy time. Yeah, because people
It
don't
wouldn't be
understand.
much fun
Yeah, I was gonna
playing.
say because people don't understand. Like when you're playing, like you feed off that energy in the crowd, and you know what I mean. That's what kind of So I don't know. It's gonna
Right.
be a tough one. That's gonna be. I don't know. I don't know. And I don't know. It's kind of just crazy.
It,
It's kind of
it,
uncertain.
it'll be just kind of like practice,
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, no spectators there, and I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what develops. I don't think we know right now.
Right.
We just need to get a vaccine developed, and I think people then would, maybe some form of normalcy if we get a vaccine.
Right. Right.
But we haven't got that yet.
Right. And so, in the second question, so all the girls you have coached and everything. So I need your all time starting five with all the girls you coached.
You're putting a lot of pressure on me there. You know that, right?
Mom, I was
Okay,
talking to
but
mom. I
I
was
want to
talking to
give you
mom
more.
about it, and she's like, "That's a great question." She's like, "You better put me at the four."
Well, I'm going to give you more than 5 names. Okay.
Gotcha.
Will that be okay?
Yeah. That's fine. That's fine.
And I'm not listing these in order of the best. Okay.
Gotcha.
I'm just going to give you about 10 names here that I've jotted down, and most all these girls were all-staters. One or two All-Americans, as a matter of fact. But Tracy Bowden, she was 6'3". She played at the University of Alabama. She was on that state championship team. This was at Rush Springs, of course. And I only coached girls at two different places, Duncan and Rush Springs. Okay. Another girl, of course, was Trisha Payne. She played at Texas Christian University. Great player, coach. In fact, she coached at ECU, and she's now the women's athletic director at Saginaw High School there in Fort Worth. And my daughter, my daughter was a great shooter. She could shoot lights out. She was an All-American, a second-team All-American at Oklahoma Christian College. She had 11 threes one night in a game, which set the school record there at Oklahoma Christian. She could shoot lights out. I mean, she could. Ironic story, but Allie Griffin, she played, and she was an all-stater. She played at Oklahoma Christian, and she played about 10 years after my daughter, and she broke Lisa's record for threes. She hit 12 in a game.
That's a lot of threes,
one
man.
night at Oklahoma Christian. So that was kind of cool. This record, that was neat. And then Sharika was a really good post player. Okay, I mean she just had a knack for turning and using the glass, which I think is really a knack. I'm in fast break, and we made that sideline pass, 1 to the 2, and then boom inside and just turn around and bump it off the glass because of her speed and her knack for using the glass. She was really a good post player. And Sharika, she had a scholarship to OCC too, and I guess then I can't remember if Sharika graduated up there or not. I don't think she did. I think she went to maybe USAO after that, or I don't remember.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay, but she could play. Okay, and then there was a girl named Lauren Hart who played at Southern Nazarene University. Lauren was a sweetheart of a player. I mean, a hard-working. She didn't have a ton of ability, but she just had the biggest heart, and she was about 5'11" and tougher than old Billy. I mean, she was tough. If we were going to have a street fight, she'd be the first girl I'd choose to go on my team. She was tough. She made All-State. Then I had a girl by the name of Krista McKay. Okay, she was 6 foot, and we run a 1-3-1 half-court trap. She played on the top of our trap up there. Krista played at University of Texas San Antonio. She was an all-state player and a great. She's one of the top ones. Then Shantika. Okay, now Shantika, she couldn't score very well. You know, she wasn't a great shooter, but she could cover you. I mean, she could D up on you, which to me, that was always super, super important to have a girl who you could put on their best player. And Shantika went ahead and played at USAO, actually, she went to Murray State first, to JUCO, and from there over to USAO and played. And of course, you know Shantika, and but I love her. I love Shantika. She was a great girl. And then I had a girl named Jennifer Shoffett, who actually moved to Duncan from Chickasha. She didn't like Chickasha. None of us like Chickasha. But Jennifer was a good player, an all-stater from Duncan. She was one of those quiet leaders who never said a word in practice. You couldn't get anything out of Cherry. We made fun for not talking.
Mm-hmm.
But she was Carmen Link. Carmen is the girl that I told you about earlier that got injured in a state semifinal game when we got beat by Tulsa Hale the next night. Yeah, Carmen, her dad is a lawyer there in Duncan, and she had a twin sister named Melissa. They both played, but Carmen was a really good player. I'll tell you a little story about Carmen. The first night I coached in Duncan, we had a summer open gym, summer league. It wasn't a summer league, actually. It was just open gym. And I had all the girls come because I had announced that I was coming and taking the job, so I wanted to watch them play. Well, the first night that we opened up the gym and let them play, Carmen lost her temper, slammed the ball down on the floor, and I jumped on her big time. And I said, we do not act that way. If you can't hold your temper, girl, you have no place around here. And that was all it took. From that time on, Carmen knew how to act, and she took us to the state finals, actually. And but really good girl. I still have contact with Carmen. She lives in Shawnee. One other girl, okay, and this girl played at Wayland Baptist University. Her name was Jeannie Bishop. She was a Rush Springs girl back in the 6-on-6 days, but a really good player. So I gave you more than 5, okay?
Oh man, that's fun. I love stories, man. I love stories. You want Shantika to drop out? I can't believe that. I ain't gonna tell her. I ain't gonna say nothing.
You're not gonna tell Shantika, are you?
No, I ain't gonna. Hopefully, she doesn't watch the video when I post it. Hopefully.
Oh, okay. You're gonna post it, are you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm actually gonna post Shantika's. I did hers probably a month ago or so. She mentioned you. She told me she wasn't a great shooter.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, we talked. Yeah, but I talked to her. I'm gonna probably post hers and then I'll so on and so forth.